So I don't know if you have something to tell, but I will ask you a question. Is there anything you've ever been obsessed with before at one point in your life, but your obsession just dropped off and you're not as into the certain thing anymore? Because man, if there's one thing that I wish that I was still obsessed with and crazy about was creepypastas, man. Like, I remember when I was a kid slash teenager, I was probably around 14, 15. How I found out about creepypastas is I knew this guy in Xbox. I knew a pretty weird dude on Xbox 360. This guy was interesting. His name was Social Hawkman, and he was a weird dude, man. Like, I almost felt like I was like a young kid, and I almost felt like a counselor at times, because the shit he would tell me about his life was weird. He would always talk about fights he would get in, how when he would beat people up, he would taste their blood, how his girlfriend would beat people up and taste their blood. It was fucking crazy. But he's the one that introduced me to creepypastas. He introduced me to Sonic.exe. And when I saw that, like as soon as I saw the Sonic.exe thing by So Many Gamers, I became like that did it for me. It was like a drug at that point. Like, I was so obsessed with creepypastas for years as a kid and teenager. I was just so fascinated by it, so obsessed with it, so intrigued by it, where every day there had to be something creepypasta related. I either had to be listening to stories, I had to be thinking about it, I had to be talking about it, I had to be watching fan films about it. Even when I played video games, I had to listen to creepypastas. Like, there had to be something related to creepypastas. I was so freaking obsessed with them. I was so hooked onto them. I would listen to creepypasta stories, play games with listening to creepypasta stories. I would watch the fuck out of every fan film on YouTube I could find of people making live action shorts of creepypastas, because I was just so obsessed with it and so intrigued by it. It was just like a phenomenon. And I miss being obsessed with that shit. I would say the obsession stopped after maybe the mid 2010s. Like, I would say when I turned 17 or 18 and moved, and the older I got, the obsession wear off, which sucks, man. I miss being crazy and obsessed about creepypastas. I miss when I was so into it that every day was creepypasta. Whether I was listening to it, talking about it, thinking about it, it was just insane how much I was obsessed with that shit. It was crazy. And I miss it because it was fun being obsessed with that shit. I would even imagine myself in like creepypasta scenarios and like create an own TV show in my head of creepypasta shit. And, maybe another reason why that happened is, unfortunately, one thing I noticed, I don't know if you ever looked too much into creepypastas, they're pretty much like fictional horror stories that exist on the internet. The most popular ones were Slender Man, Jeff the Killer. There was ones made of video games. You had Sonic.exe, which is like a creepy version of Sonic that murdered his friends. There was also, what was the other one? It was something to do with Zelda, Ben or something, Ben Drowned. There was something to do with Zelda that was creepy. And there was just a lot of those. And they were just so damn interesting. Like, I couldn't get enough of them. Like, I could listen to 5, 10 stories. I could watch 3 or 4 short films. I just could not get enough of them bitches. I had to keep supplying myself with creepypasta content. I mean, at least it's not like heroin or crack where I'm going to have bad and negative effects from it. It's actually a good thing to be obsessed with, but I just miss being obsessed with creepypastas, man, because I was obsessed with creepypastas, that's how the dog came into fruition, also with 3POC stuff. But I just miss being obsessed with creepypastas. I think maybe one of the things that led to my obsession dying off could either be me getting older, burnt out. I think it also had to do with the fact that, unfortunately, creepypastas, they kind of seem like they died out in a way. Like, they're still around, but creepypastas definitely seem like they've died out in terms of popularity, because they were really huge. I would say back in the 2010s, they were massive. The Jeff the Killer was huge. Slender Man was huge. All that shit was massive. And I think eventually creepypastas just kind of, their fame like died down and fizzled out, which is really unfortunate. They're not really as big as they used to be anymore. I think a lot of that maybe has to do with a lot of women getting older, because a lot of girls when they were younger, they had a huge attraction to Jeff the Killer. They really liked that character a lot, not only attraction-wise, but they liked that character. And I don't know, man. I miss being obsessed. And I'd like to know if there's anything like that you were ever obsessed with that you wish you still had the same passion and obsession for. Because I've tried to go back to creepypasta stuff here and there, but it just isn't the same, man. It isn't the same. I was way more into them years ago. Like I was so crazy about them. Like to the point where if I'm talking to people on Xbox, I gotta talk. I would get other people into that shit, and then they would become obsessed with it. It was just so fucking fascinating, man. It was just, I don't know. Like, it's crazy because like Goosebumps were good books. American and Michigan Chillers and horror books I read as a kid. Those were good, but creepypastas were just on a whole other level, and they just had something else about them that really just brought a whole lot forward. And I think that's why I did so many videos of the dog back in the days, because I had a creepypasta obsession. And that's why I think it's kind of hard to do dog videos. Like I actually did a dog, I had a dog cameo in the video I did about racism against white people in hip-hop rap. I actually brought him back for that video. And it was fun to bring him back, but it felt weird doing that character when I'm not even obsessed with creepypastas anymore. It felt very odd, so yeah.